Oh, hello, friends. It's me, host Eric. I'm the host of Talking to Famous People. Remember? Is this how you live stream? Am I doing this right? Can you hear me? Am I streaming live around the world? Am I currently engaging in a live broadcast of my voice and face to the many myriad other people who benefit from seeing and hearing those things? Hi, Lancer. Are you Lancer like Lancer from Fate Zero? You know, Rider, Lancer, Saber. Yeah, it's another day. I woke up unusually early this morning. Like Lancer from Deltarune. I don't know what Deltarune is. I had a lot of things to talk about before I started live streaming, as usual. And then once I start streaming, I go, what was I going to say? What was I going to say, I know one of the things I was thinking about last night when I was lying in bed trying to go to sleep is about how when we talk about big picture, we really need to distinguish between the long view and the big picture. Because while I have a clear understanding of the big picture, I'm very bad at the long view. And while my dad, who's an ESTJ, has a very good sense of the long view, he also has a poor sense of the big picture. Those two things get mushed together a lot, you know? Hi, Winston's mom. Hi, Lauren Cuthbert. I'm doing fine. I'm a little tired. I didn't really get that much sleep last night. Got about 5 hours. Congratulations. I thought you were living with a flatmate who has it. And it's ultra contagious. You know, it's pretty much instant death. So that means everybody dies. No getting around it, Lauren Cuthbert. Everybody has to die now. This is How One Livestreams? Am I doing it correctly? Well, the long view is like my dad was always somebody who was thinking about resource management over the long term, right? Like investing and you know, he was the kind of investor that did adhere to the conventional wisdom of buy and hold. You know, you have a date with Horse Bombard soon. Fantastic. You know what I suggest? Horse riding. I had a date with Horse Bombard once. I visited him in Arizona. You can have my sloppy seconds. To be perfectly honest, I didn't have sex with him, but I did hang out with him. He did take me to one of the greatest museums of all time. The Museum of the Museum of Miniatures, Time Machine Museum of Miniatures or something like that. That's some ridiculously long name. But it was spectacular. If you've never seen my video on the visits to the Museum of Miniatures, I'd highly recommend it. You too can see what Tempe, no. Is it Tempe, Arizona? No, it's not Phoenix. It's not Tempe, right? It's another one. Well, I'll give you guys an update on my crypto investments that I made a couple weeks ago. Let's see how they're doing this morning. You know, crypto is so volatile. It goes, you know, all. Okay, so it's funny. Last night when I checked it, it was at, so including fees and everything, I bought now $1,360 worth of crypto. And it's currently worth $1,586.51. So in a couple of weeks here, I've made more than $200 on my investment. I have the most invested in Litecoin, which is doing well. But like Tucson, that's what it's called, Tucson. Basically gambling. I mean, I don't think it's gambling really, because in this instance, I'm specifically investing in only the 4 cryptos that are being sold on PayPal. And my justification for it is, until cryptos recently, with, you know, a month or two ago, began selling crypto, buying crypto was something that regular people who were inclined potentially to buy a little bit of it, but lazy like me, well, now I'm always going into PayPal anyway, right? So I just said, oh, fuck it, I'll just buy some crypto. You know, pending when I need the money, and then I'll cash it out, you know? It's like when I need the cash, I'll sell it. And the gamble there is, well, what if your $1,300 investment is now worth only like $1,000 or something? It's not really, in my mind, a serious risk of substantially losing money. Like if you look at the graph on Bitcoin Cash, it had a high of this year of like $2,300, and now it's like at $200 or something. It just went back above zero for the year, so it's probably a very good idea to invest something in that right now, since simply the addition of PayPal as a medium through which you can purchase and sell crypto, that in and of itself, in my opinion, is going to make those 4 cryptos that PayPal sells continue to rise for the next at least 6 months or so. In general, now they'll always experience daily volatility. There's a lot of day trading on crypto, I get the sense, you know. And of course, that's great if you're dealing in sufficient quantities, I guess, to take your profits when you may, so to speak, you know. I mean, I disagree with you on better off with currencies or commodities. What's GME in this? What does that mean? I don't even know what GME means. Oh, GameStop? That's the GameStop stock or whatever? Well, my reasoning is basically this, Boba Fett, in general about crypto. That crypto is like gold and silver in that it's a currency in and of itself, sort of, and yet also not really. Basically, my position is the stock market is supposed to broadly and generally has historically represent the general health of the global economy. So the reason that the stock market is still going up, despite the fact that the economy is basically tanked, is because, broadly speaking, despite everything, the global economy was still undervalued in terms of stock. So stocks are ways in which every average person can choose to be an owner of the global economy rather than a worker in it. And people don't really understand this very well about stocks, right? It's like there's a lot of progressives who maybe oppose Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street movement and so forth. But of course, the only way for real upward mobility is for individuals to cease being participants in someone else's owned project and to be, in some extent, owners themselves. Hi, Bargaret. Would you like some embroidery of your face? I mean, I can't conceive of any context in which I would answer that question no. I've never imagined being asked that question before, but now that I have been asked it, the answer is obvious. Of course. Imagine if Bitcoin crashed and you bet against it. I don't know if you can short crypto like that. I'm not sure if there's a market that shorts crypto in that fashion. But I mean, the thing is, Bitcoin Cash did crash a whole bunch, right? So it was way up to two grand plus, and it crashed, and now it's creeping back up above zero for the year. Like I said, you got to understand, I guess, people's psychology a little bit too, which is, with something like crypto that isn't really linked to anything concrete. So, if the reason AT&T stock is down and should be down is because of the various problems with that company and its fiscal health. But crypto is kind of unlinked to anything in that fashion. So what people tend to do is they'll look at the history of the price, and whatever the high was, they'll figure it'll go back up to there at some point. Now, whether it actually will or not, I don't know. But I mean, like, if I were to have sufficient funds to quote unquote day trade and take profits regularly, then I guess I would. But like let's say I were to cash out my profits right now on a crypto, which is over $200 on a $1,300 or $1,360 investment. So I mean that's a good return for a couple of weeks, right? Let's say I were to profit take right now and take that couple $100 profit. Well, great. Now what are you going to do? Now I've got a couple $100 profit. I guess I could buy more crypto. Well, I might as well just not sell it then, So my position on it is all I'll invest when I have capital sitting around, and when I need to spend it on something, I'll just cash it out then, and hope for profit every time. Whether or not it's going to actually play out like that, I don't know, but I suspect that I'll profit now for the next chunk of time because of the factors I said regarding PayPal, and also my general thoughts on the state of the world economy and the fact that people invest in alternatives to the stock market when the economy's tank. So I mean, the thing about wow, those are some big sneezes for little Eric, huh? Only I can talk to Barker Parker now? I wonder why. What I would say is that any kind of speculative endeavor, from poker to real estate investing, the key thing to remember is to factor in the Margaret Barker changed her name. I didn't even notice that. Now she's famous, people, and I'm talking with her, obviously. It's a great name, by the way. Smart. Very clever. I'm surprised nobody's done that before. What do you want to go into business about, Lauren Cuthbert? What do you want to sell? Bags of poo? I'm not sure that's really going to be a very popular product. Well, I guess if we both contribute our poo and we both make very small bags of poo, we could have enough product potentially just by producing it ourselves. Eric, yesterday I found the show, Who is America? Did you ever see it? And if so, did you think it was funny? It sounds really familiar, but I can't place any specs on it. So maybe I haven't. Let's sell a stick where you can take selfies in the toilet without holding it. So you're trying to take pictures of yourself peeing? Like, you want... I mean, I hate to point this out, Lauren Cuthbert, but you don't need to use your hands to pee. So, as a consequence, there's no reason for you not to hold a selfie stick. See what I'm saying? Now, for a gentleman man like me, who needs both hands to urinate like this, like kind of like holding a rocket-propelled grenade launcher. Anyway, that product makes some sense. But why are we excluding half of the population from our demographic that we're going to sell to? Because chicks don't need to have their hands free to piss anyway, right? Hands-free urination now with the extendable penis holder. Simply attach it to your shoulder the other end to the tip of your penis, and it'll hold your penis for you while you're urinating. Oh, long view versus big picture, what again? So I was musing how I have often said or noted to myself and been correct about the fact that my dad is not very big picture. So, and whenever you try to get him to big picture, he just sort of goes down to, yeah, well, those things are beyond our knowing, kind of, or, well, that stuff, we don't know. So, or, what I always say, hope for the best, plan for the worst. Shit like that. You want to build a web app called Cat Finder to track all the cats you want to snuggle in your area. You should just have basically an app that looks for heat signatures the size of cats in the general neighborhood that you're in, and labels them according to their petability, like highly petable to very skittish. And you'll rely on other people's ratings systems to come up with this. So after somebody's used the app and pet a cat, the app prompts them, how petable was this cat? And it gives you specific things like matted fur is, like an example of something where you'll say, you don't even tell them how petable it was. You just answer a bunch of questions and they calculate how petable it is from those questions. Is it a loud purr? Is it a non-purr? Is it somewhere in between? Is it a cat that comes up to you, or do you have to coax it? Do you have to coax it with some Coke? Right. True. So, I guess what I mean by big picture is basically framework. It's possible to be very big picture in your life in some sense, like my dad has been. He's been very attentive to setting things up in his life with the long view in mind. So he had long-term care insurance just in case something like what happened to my mom happened to my mom. He didn't want to be financially responsible entirely himself from his own funds for paying for long-term care. He fretted and worried about whether or not when they're very old, back when he was like 40 years old, he fretted and worried or considered and thought about what was going to happen when my mom and he were 85 years old. And he considered that an important factor to consider when making decisions when he was 40 years old. I cannot even conceive of existing in that world, right? Making a decision now based on what might happen when I'm 85 years old is like, what? I'm all for prudent, like sustaining of resources. So, for example, I'm sort of long view in the sense that I have a general policy of trying to be frugal, trying to sustain resources, and trying to live within my means, knowing that I'll need additional monies later. But beyond that, beyond a few months ahead, I just think that's, who knows what's going to be happening in a few months. Why would I plan for that? On the other hand, when my dad is trying to explain why the gate that he knows he had left closed was open now again, as he did back when my mom was here, and blamed the neighbor boy who's like 25 years old or something for pranking us, which was just insane. It's like there's no big picture understanding there, right? He's not factoring in how humans actually work. This individual he's talking about, and his link story for why he thinks Alex was guilty of something is doesn't resonate on a big picture level. So what I'm saying is sometimes you may hear like me and Legends Fall or something argue about whether the election was stolen. In my perspective, he's not being big picture enough. In his perspective, I'm not being big picture enough. In other words, I'm insisting on too much. I'm insisting too much on the metric of justification that I validate with, and I'm not accepting stuff that's intuitively suggestive as definitive enough or something. But I would say that he's not being big picture enough because he's not factoring in the way the world actually works. You know, that the capacity of individuals or groups to predict how actions are going to impact this very complex system is a very complex, chaotic, open system. Is it just people don't work that way? Reality doesn't work that way. Heuristics don't work that way. And, will doesn't work that way. Hi, Reese M. Speaking of Reese, there's a util block in debate that people are reading lately. It's popular lately that says basically, government has no choice but to use utilitarian calculus. That we always have to make decisions with incomplete information, and predictions is the best we can do, and utilitarianism is therefore necessarily the adjudicatory mechanism. But of course, the obvious answer is it's the adjudicatory mechanism after you cleared something as legit. That's why we don't justify all kinds of random murders, right? We're trying not to anyway. So I was talking with Rachel the other day about Reese's Pieces. And as far as I recall, there were never any Reese's Pieces before the movie E.T. Now, in the movie E.T., Reese's Pieces play a large role. But I believe that E.T. coincided with the launch of the product Reese's Pieces. But I've not yet verified that. Who are you? What is this? Where are we? Why? These are the questions we all have, Moby. These are the questions that make our hearts flutter, makes our minds race with excitement, enthusiasm, and curiosity. No, this isn't an MBTI channel. But thanks for the quick and immediate reductive boxing. I always love that. That's funny, Reese. I'm not sure I would have used the verb goad there. Does he really goad with Reese's Pieces? I would suggest he entices with Reese's Pieces rather than goads. Like you use a cattle prod to goad, for example. Not so much a Reese's Piece. That's okay, Malby. That's totally okay. According to Wikipedia, though, Reese's Pieces was released 4 years before E.T., but nobody ever ate them. And then, when they coordinated with the makers of E.T. movie to have their product featured, after that, everybody knew about them. What does that tell you? It tells you Reese's Pieces are made by aliens. It's proof. 100% rock solid proof. Well, that's very interesting. I'm glad you Googled it, Skygear. Thank you for that. I guess they did exist prior to ET, but I'm pretty sure it was E.T. I think you were right about them verbing E.T. with the Reese's Pieces. I'm not disputing that. I'm just disputing whether they goaded him. I would say that they more enticed him. It tells me that the guy who wrote E.T. had a romantic affair with Hershey company executives. Does Hershey make Reese's Pieces? Let me also say this about Reese's Pieces. Among your little circle candy shell covered candies, which include both your M&Ms and your Reese's Pieces, M&Ms are vastly more popular than Reese's Pieces. But Reese's Pieces are actually probably better. You know, it's like I really quite like them, and so I wonder why they're so much still less popular than M&Ms. Winston's mom hears the M&M company was approached and said no. Wow, big mistake, M&Ms. Big mistake. Octavio Silva, how dare you befoul the Reese's Pieces name by calling them disgusting. They are not disgusting. They're very good. They're not my favorite candy, but they're very good. I think my favorite candy is Heath Bar, probably. Okay, so Sky here proposes that an increased number of colors amongst your Reese's Pieces would increase their popularity. But you know what? Here's the second anti-Reese's Pieces person. Winston's mom agrees with Octavia Silva. She also thinks they're icky. Well, I don't know. Both of you two have broken taste buds, obviously. The Reese's Pieces taste bud is one of the proofs of human evolution, actually. Only some percentage of the population have evolved that extra taste bud. You guys obviously don't have it, so that's why your tongues are broken. That's what's wrong with your tongue. If you were wondering, Octavia Silva and Winston's mom, what was wrong with your tongue, it's that you're lacking the Reese's Pieces taste bud. Well, I'm surprised to get this pushback on Reese's Pieces. I was even more surprised, though, at the result of the shocking, absolutely shocking ice cream poll, in which waffle cone and bowl cup were clear winners, and the obvious best choice, sugar cone, got like 7% of the vote. That was shocking. Talk about me wanting to claim an election was fixed. I don't know anybody who would choose waffle cone. I think the fix is in. I want proof that the YouTube poll voting machines cannot be hacked by China. I forgot, somebody said that in a comment, Bobby's son, and I straight up did one of these. Eric, what were you thinking? Why didn't you put straight from the container? You had an extra choice. You ran out of ideas. What the fuck is a sugar cone? A sugar cone's like the only way to eat ice cream. God, I'll find a picture of it, okay, and I'll link it here. Sugar cone. You might just look at it and go, oh, you mean like a regular ice cream cone. But no, it's not the so-called cake cone, okay? A cake cone. All right, look here. Open image in new tab. There. Here's a picture of a sugar cone. Okay, that's a picture of a sugar cone. That's the proper kind of cone to get your ice cream on. They have them at Baskin Robbins. Now, here's what they call a cake cone. Talk about a misleading name, because cake's good, right? Like everybody goes, oh, I like cake. Who doesn't like cake? But nobody likes cake cone, you would think. But I asked the guy at the Baskin Robbins the other night, I was like, does anybody get those regular cones? And he's like, you'd be surprised. A lot of people get these regular cones. And I said, I would be surprised. In fact, I am surprised. I didn't actually say that. But tribal people try Pop Rocks for the first time. That's a funny video. Frogs try Pop Rocks for the first time. Get some frogs. Well, do you like it? So, okay, that second link there is of cake cone. Cake cones are an absolute disaster. And I'll tell you why. They have only one potential advantage, which is their broader top allows you to put the ice cream more inside, so less of it will go over the edges. But that's never how it is served. So it's irrelevant even if it has that potential advantage if nobody uses it like that. Right? Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? I am right. Now, I will concede that waffle cones do have that advantage. Ice cream at Food Cube, if so, how? Well, we need to make a square sugar cone. Like a sugar cube, a cube that's hollow, made out of sugar cone, and you just put a cube of ice cream into it, and then you give them a square fork. Now, it won't be ice cream though; it'll be dessert cube. I like drumsticks too. We get drumsticks periodically. We try to keep drumsticks in the freezer out there. But last time we got, I think they're called like Fat Boy ice cream sandwiches. You know, when you go to the frozen ice cream, boxes of frozen ice creams section of the supermarket, quality is very important. So it's like you can get cheap ass store brand ice cream sandwiches. They're not nearly as good as name brand ice cream sandwiches. It's like, so what you want is ice cream M&Ms, Octavio Silva, that melt in your mouth, not in your hands. Drone strikes are fun. I mean, I guess it depends on what you're drone striking. If you're the one being drone struck, I would guess it's not particularly fun. Spoons are for losers, okay? You know what I hear when I hear the word spoon? Heroin addict. You know? It's like spoons are for heroin, not for ice cream. Here in the South, we have custard cabins. I've had frozen custard before, and I liked it a lot, but I haven't had it in ages. I had it one time when I was on the East Coast. I don't really have it out here, you know? You got frozen yogurt and you got ice cream, but I don't ever see any frozen custard out here. Frozen custard sounds like a strange sex act. Like, I then she gave me a frozen custard. What's that? It's when you put 6 ice cubes up your butt and then rub your junk with custard. You wash your hands 20 plus times a day. Me too. I don't. Eric, have you ever seen videos of Turkish ice cream men? They are very funny. It's even funnier when you experience the tricks they pull on you. No, I've never heard of that before. Turkish ice cream man? Turkish ice cream man. Also sounds like an innuendo for something. If you use one note and word at the same time, you have the N word. I mean, depending on what I'm doing, I wash my hands more or less, you know. When my mom was here, I washed my hands a lot because I was doing a lot of dirty stuff, you know. Like changing diapers and stuff like that. But nowadays, I don't do that much dirty stuff. Mostly my hands just get dirty from, like, you know, rubbing my face and stuff, I guess. Hi, H. Have I ever told you you're one of my favorite letters of the alphabet? Yeah, you're right up there with J and R. Those are a couple of really great letters. Dealing with loss, detachment. There's a cruel spiritual aspect to gambling, stock markets, Vegas, or anything else. Your icon ugly. Whose icon is ugly? What are my big 5 scores? I don't remember exactly. But I was scored high in extroversion, high in openness, low in neuroticism, low in conscientiousness, and what's the other one? Agreeableness. I think kind of medium in agreeableness. You actually have favorite letters, Octavia Silva? What an FI-DOM. What an FI-DOM thing to say. You have favorite letters. It's like, God, stop caring about things. Stop having feelings. It's so lame. You know? I always was totally confused by these questions when, like, I was in kindergarten or something, and they say, like, well, what's your favorite whatever? What's your favorite color? Brown? Purple? Who is your hero? I was in trouble with that one too. Like, I don't know. Who do you look up to and want to emulate? Nobody? I mean, that was always what I thought. You know, I knew I had to give some other answer than that, but I always was confused by those questions. I mean, do people generally do that? Do people generally look up to and want to emulate somebody? I don't really think that's a normal thing to do. Yellow, green, brown, gray, red. Well, my favorite color, I think, is probably James Charles. I don't know who James Charles is, but he does have 2 first names. My hero is Stevie Wonder. When I grow up, I want to be just like him, completely blind. You joking? Placid Hell, did you get permission to joke? Around here, you need to file a application for joke making. It needs to go through the whole chain of command. And you'll get it back in 4 to 6 weeks with an approval or a denial or a request for more information. So James Charles is a makeup tranny? I mean, is that how this individual self-identifies? Oh, you know it's coming pretty soon, right? I prefaced it with a little bit of audio foreshadowing a second ago. You may remember the audio foreshadowing that I shared with you. What do you think that audio foreshadowing was foreshadowing? Pretty soon, I'm going to have to poop. Pretty soon. I can feel it brewing. It's brewing. It's gathering itself into the size and shape of a human infant in preparation of coming out of my butt. I have never once live streamed my actual poops. I just live stream before and after them. You'll hear about what's upcoming in my colon-related matters, and you'll also hear about what's happened in the bathroom while I was gone. But I've never actually taken you with me to go poo. So you've got that to look forward to. Or to, I mean, not to look forward to, but to mitigate your suffering. Yes. Why does Eric have to go number 2? Because 7, 8, 9. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the argument I had last night with that guy about whether or not my joke about his mom's face was failed by being low-hanging fruit. And then after he made that argument, I think I defeated it adequately. He ran a counter plan that I should have chosen other low-hanging fruit, namely, that's what she said instead of your mom joke. I had to concede at that point, you know. But it just goes to show you, you can run a counter plan that is exclusive of your negation if you're negating, as long as you kick the negation first. So he couldn't run that counter plan conditionally. He couldn't say either you failed because your joke was low hanging or you failed because my low hanging joke is better. He has to make only one of those 2 arguments, but he can make the former one first, then kick it and say, okay, I'm no longer making that argument. I'm making this counter plan instead. But he can't run the counter plan conditionally, because in that case, he's both double bound himself and via this fallacious reasoning guaranteed himself to win under any circumstances, because he wins either because low-hanging fruit is bad or because low-hanging fruit is good, but his is better. So he can't have both, you know. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting an interesting example of a concept I teach and debate a lot, which is don't ever let them run conditional exclusive counterplans. Don't ever let them run multiple conditional counterplans. Don't let them run any conditional counterplans for that matter. It's like a conditional counterplan is vote for me because meow, but if not meow, then here's a counterplan to vote for. So, if you don't like A, vote for B. If you don't like B, vote for A. And they contradict each other and they both support my side, can't do that. But unlike with AF, on neg, you're not subject to severance. So, voting for Trump does sound like a good name for a new game show based off of Bowling for Dollars, but you're voting for Trump's, and you have to take home any winning Trump that you voted for and take care of them for 6 months. There are no rewards in this game show. It's just a punishment avoiding game show. I'm not sure how popular it will be amongst participants. Here's the thing. Hi, Susie. But you don't even know that. Poof. But you don't even know that. Goodbye. Go teach kindergarten. Tell those little children they need to stop using their feelings. You have to go number 3. Well, what you need to do is find a very sensual lady who's willing to tend to your sexual needs. Conditional argument without a root or whatever. Oh, I see. You're commenting on my conditional counterplan thing. The any means God. I'm not sure about your use of the there, the definite article, but extroverted intuition is what any means. God refers to the almighty monothe. Monothe. If I'm a theist, then I must believe in a the, right? Yeah. IDC about grammar. Okay, well, I don't think I said anything about grammar. I guess referring to the as the definite article, the, is kind of a grammatical issue. As far as the meaning of the word ne being God, well, that's an issue of diction, not grammar, or simply a vocabulary. You're misdefining it, you see. Keanu Reeves is a god. Well, I was very impressed with Keanu Reeves' performance in that one movie where he plays himself as this guy who comes in and starts dating this lady, and it's played like comedically, like your worst nightmare is you're trying to hit up this chick to go out with her, and then all of a sudden, Keanu Reeves comes and asks her out. And he's a douchebag, but of course the girl's completely like, oh my God, it's Keanu Reeves. In real life, I'm sure he wouldn't be a douchebag, but in the movie, he did a great job of playing like douchey celeb. Ollie Alexander from Years and Years. Harry Styles. I don't know either of those people. It makes me think of hot mess. Because I'm a hot mess. When you said, I don't care, I love it. I don't know if they say that in the song or is that another song that they say that's kind of similar to that. Mainly Czech, but I sort of listen, read more English than Czech nowadays. So I'm in a spot where I suck at both languages. Well, you know what they say, Black Knight? As long as you speak English, you're okay. You have a terrible habit of forming crushes for gay men. Are you sure that's a crush? It's not more of a, hey, look, it's a dude, but like a chick, kind of. How fun. We can talk about shoes. We can get our hair done together and stuff. And he's also a dude, so I feel like, you know, like a dude's paying attention to me. But he's like a chick, because we can talk about stupid girl stuff. And it's like that. I mean, no offense, ladies. I don't mean to be dissing your stuff. I'm just not interested in it at all. Your stuff about your hairs, your makeups, your clothes, your shoeses, your prettification protocols and so forth. I have no interest in it. Actually, from what I hear from an actual homosexual, I heard this guy here, the gallant ESFP, that an extremely common gay fantasy is that it's for straight men to have intercourse at them, to make intercourse at them. You have a terrible habit of forming crushes on lesbians. Well, that's not necessarily a terrible habit. They may just be confused. Lesbians seem more confused than gay men. Like, chicks tend to go back and forth between dudes and chicks if they're lesbians, whereas dudes, I think, they tend to stick with dudes if they're gay. But maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't really know anything about it. Oh, I gotta poo so bad. Okay, I gotta get up and poo now. There's no avoiding it. Oh, I'm gonna die if I don't poo right now. I'm gonna die of poo overload if I don't poo right now. Must poo right now. Caterpillar time. Caterpillar time. It's caterpillar time. Caterpillar time. It's caterpillar time. It's caterpillar time. Back up your heart. We'll get ready for caterpillar time. It's caterpillar time. I got my hose, I got my bins, I got my gaps, and then again, I got my drugs and my gang and my strippers, all the same. I've got everything that I need. I'm rolling down the highway, moving at top speed, looking out for a reason to see a G. I got my hose, I got my gat, a super awesome conference. I got my clubs, I got my strippers, I got all kinds of fun stuff. Rolling in the Benz down the highway super fast, going to another super awesome conference for Florida's natural grapefruit juice. Florida's natural grapefruit juice. Florida's natural grapefruit juice. Florida's natural grapefruit juice. Get your hose, got your gats, got your guns, got your band. Don't forget your grapefruit juice, my friends. Say hi, chicken pot pie. What you do? Potato stew. What you see? Split pea. Can you be like me? You've got to have a recipe with a chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, a chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, a chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, a chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's important to eat chicken pot pie. If you want to go downtown and have a hot dog inside a hot clown outfit, like a clown, be top dogs while at work. Be a jerk. Don't forget that's dirt. The tree you say you should have a what now? Say bye bye, chicken pot pie. If you don't want to become alive, chicken pot burn, you were lying that time. You're not a chicken pot pie. You're a frying kind of guy. Chicken pot pie. A chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, a chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, a chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, a chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, a chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, chicken pot pie, a chicken pot pie, 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 chicken pot pie.
Proud of my boys. Rope them mules. Floodwater's coming. Water roll up, will the levee hold, will the levee blow up when the water roll up to go up to blow up to the top. Water roll up, will the levee hold, will the levee blow up when the water roll up to go up to blow up to the top. Water roll up, will the levee hold, will the levee blow up when the water roll up to go up to blow up to the top, to the top, to the top, to the top, to the water roll up, will the levee hold, will the levee blow up when the water roll up to go up to blow up to the top of that earth and mound. Darling, it's been raining now for a fortnight or more. Water roll. Will the levee hold, will the levee blow up? That levee is bulging like a white emulsion. The water will show up. I don't want to see your waterlogged coast any more than you want to see mine. Water roll up, the water will show up. So listen, I know it seems a little late, but we need to learn how to swim. Water roll up, will the levee hold, will the levee blow up when the water roll up to go up to blow up to the top. Water roll up, will the levee hold, will the levee blow up when the water roll up to go up to blow up to the top of that earth and mound. Bring those mules around back here. No need to local more than once now. Yeah, that is a lonesome moon. to Lonesome Moon. You've stuff to express, it's in you, innate. But until I'm done, please wait. Text your mate Maurice that you'll be late, at least for your plate to overflow with the bait police. Better text Kate your niece, said the least so much ease. You've become inglorious with the baited wrongness of your cheaply painted corner sheesh. But until I'm done, please wait. Text your mate Maurice that you'll be late, at least for your plate to overflow with the bait police. The bait. Charlie, Marion, Charlie, Marion, Charlie, and Marmalade. We're arguing regarding sorts of marmalade. No one goes and jump for caramel gargle. It's a party to regarding the alarming like alarming sorts of anomaly. Try sitting with us homily and Jesus really homily and subsequently following the future garble garble and Charlie, Marley, and Charlie, really Charlie, and Marmalade. And I keep all our cards, which matter well, burning the alarming. Charlie, someone's swearing and all four talking currently and Charlie, and Charlie, and also Charlie, Marmalade. Said all array of baddies and eagers are part of the succession of this argument.
I think this song about 16 years ago or something. Okay, so let me clarify what I'm saying for Raphael and everybody else too. My observation has been that women sometimes get into lesbian relationships, but that is not necessarily a strong indicator of whether they'll ever be in another heterosexual relationship again. It seems like the opposite with gay men, that some of them may start off as heterosexual, but once they sort of embrace their gaiety, then it's just nothing but penis from there on out. So that's just my observation. But then after I made that observation, I said, but what the fuck do I know about this? I don't know anything about it. I don't have a lot of experience with, I guess, openly gay people, really. Yeah, I guess I concluded that from knowing a variety of people who for whom that seems to, like, not knowing a variety of people necessarily, but hearing a bunch of stories, like hearing people talk about their woman getting with another woman, them breaking up, and then she ends up with another dude, right? Stuff like that. You don't really hear it the other way around, but that's just personal experience, It's like, I don't really claim to have a justification for that conclusion, except that's my observational conclusion, You think men are more prone to develop a fetish? I do. I think men get obsessed with things in an autistic way that sometimes expresses itself sexually. I don't know about the answer to that question. I'm not sure what qualifies exactly as a fetish, It's like, is it necessarily an object that you fetishize? Or because it's like, isn't all sex basically fetishist in some sense? It's a vintage one from the early 2000s. Oh, you're talking about that song? Yeah, that song is Torture is a Fetish. Okay, but it's like, I think most heterosexual couples probably have some element of dominant submission in their sexual activity, right? It seems sort of implicit to the respective physical roles. But does that mean that they're into a fetish? Like, I'm not going to deny, I can be a little bit bossy sometimes in bed. My normal, polite, no, what would you, what do you want? Attitude doesn't play out necessarily during when I'm making sexual intercourse at a lady, namely Rachel, for example. I think Bofet may have been talking about this link here, but I don't know why he would tell you to share it, so I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm somewhat confused by what he's talking about too. Diamond, I do this sometimes. I will see bacon frying on a commercial and smell the bacon. No, that is not a common thing. That doesn't happen to me at all. I don't smell things that I see. But I was saying something super important a second ago. Really, really super important. Oh, yeah, about chicks and stuff. I just think that chicks are, in general, more sensual than dudes. And that can, I guess, transform into more sexual openness depending on the individual. But, I mean, that may just be, again, a correlation to the fact that chicks in general, maybe there are a higher percentage of FJs that are chicks and there are a higher percentage of like NTs that are dudes or something, or STs that are dudes. But I'm not sure. Because like every chick I've known, pretty much, no matter how much I try to tell them otherwise, they care about girl stuff. So I really made an effort to raise Delilah to not care at all about girl stuff and to think that girl stuff was dumb. Didn't work at all. It totally didn't work. She's super into girl stuff. Yeah, clothes, makeup, hair, shoes, things like that. Fancy shampoos, like, I don't know, what are like candles from Yankee Candle Company, girl stuff. Okay, so it's not my most insightful observation, Skygear. I'll concede that. Girls tend to be into girl stuff is not my most insightful observation. But I will tell you, my ESTP daughter, who you think, if anybody I could get against girl stuff, it would be her. She loves girl stuff. It's like when there was a brief period of time between wife 1 and wife 2 where I was single father and my parents would help. And so my daughter had like bowl cuts and always wore sweats and t-shirts. And then the ESFJ came into the business and I was like, God damn it. Now it's, yeah. I mean, here's the deal. I really like all the good mothering that the ESFJ did to Delilah. I appreciate that. Kudos, Candace, for your good mothering. And yet, I wish I could have excised all the hair, makeup, nails shit, because it really feels like, wow, girls waste a lot of money on that stuff, you know? Have you ever been to Ulta, ULTA, the makeup store? You know, you go in there, if you wanted to buy like 5 things, like a lipstick, a rouge, eyelash maker, a eyeliner, and what's another kind of makeup? Some powder or something. I don't know. If you want to buy like 5 things, it's gonna be like $80. It's gonna be like $80 for like a lipstick, some rouge, eyelash painter, eyeliner, and some powder. My best video was when Rachel gave me a makeover. I barely even remember that. Does anybody call it rouge? Well, that's my grandma called it. My grandma called it rouge. What do you call it? Cheek reddener? Make yourself look like an anime character with a crush. Every anime character, every time they have a crush, they always have, okay, the minimum is 3 red lines right here. Or more, you'll get a whole circle like this. Blush. Well, you know, my grandmother used to say that she was going to the beauty parlor when she went to the haircut place, right? So they no longer call that a beauty parlor, I don't think. I've never really heard anybody these days saying they're going to the beauty parlor. Highlight, bronzer, and blush are 3 different things. Are they all cheek color changers? Cheek color additives or something? Cheek colorers? The beauty parlor is now the beauty salon. A tarot lady told me before Boba Fett that in almost all of my past lives, I've been a woman. So what this antagonism towards makeup and shoes and clothes and stuff is, I don't know where it's coming from, because I have a long, long history of womanhood prior to this life. Prior to this life, it was nothing but boobs and vajays all the way back. You know, they say vajay, but vagina is spelled with a G. Another funny thing about chicks, they follow other chicks on social media as passive aggressiveness. Really? I don't know. I've noticed that chicks, not just Rachel, but other chicks have this habit of saying to other chicks, "Oh, I love your meow. I love the color of your earrings. I love your meow." They go, "Oh, your meow is so cute." It's just like 2 random ladies. One of them was Clark, one of them's Rachel, right? It's not always Rachel that initiates these exchanges. These exchanges are common among chicks, right? When they're trying to be nice. I guess this is their ally signaling to each other or something. I'm gonna start doing that with dudes. I think I'm gonna go up to the clerk and get behind the counter and be like, "Hey, I really love your top. It's adorable, dude. It's an adorable top. It's got a great color." And you're like, "Thanks. Your beard's rather styling too." Hey, thanks. Now we know that we're not venomously spitting bullets with their eyes at each other, like women who are opposed to each other, I guess, do. I mean, there's no doubt that chicks can be pretty catty, you know? It's like if one chick feels like another chick is overstepping, you get some pretty snappy pia 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 going on there, you know? And having been a middle school teacher for plenty of years, let me tell you, middle school girls, whew, they are some mean people. They're some cruel, awful. It's like boys bullying is not as bad as girls bullying. You're talking like about women like this is Carrie AF. I don't know what that means. Like this is, oh yeah. Well, I've been a woman most of my lives, introverted thinker. It's natural that I retain a lot of my womanliness. The boys in middle school, when they bully each other, as a boy, you always have the option to fight. So it's like, okay, you want to bully me? I'm going to punch you in the face. That'll put an end to that whole thing. Now, how exactly, what additional things happen is another question, but simply your willingness to fight will generally put an end to it. Even if you get your butt kicked, but if you genuinely fight. With girls, it's really like dirty. Girls can bully each other, looking perfectly pleasant with a smile on their face with just one little word that tears the other girl's soul to pieces. And, you know, an adult may not even notice, you know, whereas with boys are much less nuanced in their bullying. So it's very easy to see. I love the way you always wear the same thing, but make it look fresh. Yeah, kind of shitty stuff that women say to each other, you know? Yeah, whispering it and looking at another girl out of the corner of their eye, and when she looks over, they all laugh as a group or something, and you go, what do you, as a teacher, you go like, what the fuck are you doing? And, you know, we were just laughing. What were you laughing about? Nothing. Just jokes. You know, it's like there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, I mean, I abhor bullying, but you know what I blame it on? Compulsory school. You know, compulsory school is a catastrophe of rights violations. Well, I'm not even talking about women at the moment. I'm talking about middle school girls. Okay, middle school girls are worse in terms of how much harm they inflict on their victims than middle school boys in the bullying, because boys just are not as nuanced at that age anyway in their ontological assault. Women, girls at that age are much more advanced at their strategies of ontological assault. Women leave scars on your psyche. And it's absolutely the case that women can destroy men easily enough too. You know, men's egos are generally fairly fragile, up to a point. You know, even when you are I mean, that's not really true of Raphael Alvarez. So it is the case that different people become sexually active at different times and have different degrees of sexual activeness. For me, I didn't become sexually active until I was 18, which is on the older side. And by that time, I had driven into me by various experiences in high school and stuff that these stark boundaries in social sets that existed back then that I don't think really exist anymore, but that I was not considered reproductively viable, that I needed to remember that I was not to be permitted to have an identity that viewed myself as dateable, How exactly I managed to internalize this is difficult to say because it's not like I had a lot of very specific experiences, but if you're somebody like an ENTP who's naturally going to be neurotic about physicalities in general, and specifically about sex, 8th slot is where you feel most able to be pressured and dislike it the most when you are pressured in that area. I felt by the time I got to college as though there was a standard I needed to meet in terms of manliness, that I was still a boy while everyone around me had become men in some regard. And that real men wanted to have lots of sex with lots of people, and I internalized a bunch of bullshit. At the same time, I had internalized other kinds of bullshit from my entire childhood reading Swords and Dragons books, in which typically the women are all virginal, and after great consideration and complex deliberation, they finally agree to give up their virginity to this one guy who's proved himself worthy. It's like that's very much the trope in those kind of books. So I emerged with very conflicted narratives from childhood and adolescence. One saying real men always wanted to have sex with women, and that sex with a woman for a man was an accomplishment, and that to be a man you needed to be a high achiever in that area as well. There was that. There was also sort of you have one life partner thing that I had internalized from my parents staying together their whole lives. There was also the Swords and Dragons shit, and it was a mismatch stuff. I was not secure at all about my identity as a sexual being, while concurrently being very secure about my identity in other areas. So the fact is, when you are not confident about yourself in a given area, especially an area in which you're inherently dealing with intimacy, you're revealing yourself. I stand before you naked, is a metaphor as well as it is a metaphor because of what it literally is. It's, it's like, so yeah, it's absolutely the case that women should be careful with what they say to men, because they can, if somebody very at great effort works up the courage to pursue somebody and they're very uncomfortable about the whole thing, and you in some fashion mock them or belittle them, then it could be a long time before they take that chance again. You know, it depends. So it's like, it's not the case that that only weak men get broken by women. We're all weak in some ways, you know. It's not the case that people are equally confident in all areas of their life at all. So I was a lot more confident in myself as a performer at age 25 than I was then I was confident about my dating capital, which I believed I had none, even though I did have probably plenty, but I had internalized a lot of stuff. It didn't make me weak. It made me somewhere along my growth arc, right? I did not have any woman enemy, which I'm glad for. Even breakups were relatively friendly. You know, my breakups have all been smooth, good, cordial, or not spiteful, including the last one with Kimberly. It was the breakup was a lot better than the relationship. It was the least smooth of all my breakups, but she was the first person that I was with that had BPD, and BPD is a hell of a drug, as Rick James once said. You're excited to date again once this is all over. Will this ever all be over, really? Morality is not subjective. And it is not the case that to be subject to a woman's abuse, you need to be in the wrong. My relationship with Kimberly is proof positive of that. I did not suffer in that relationship because I deviated from morality. In reality, I probably suffered more because I didn't. I insisted on things being done properly. And I suffered as a consequence, because to do things properly is to afford trust, the thing you keep shitting on, Raphael. So for afford trust to the individual, to treat you like an individual, and, you know, fundamentally be trying to be good. Not everybody will always be good to each other. Not everybody will be a good relationship partner in every instance. But, you know, if you are fundamentally trying to be a good relationship partner and have a clear understanding of what that means, then that means affording your partner trust, being willing to engage in power exchange, back and forth willingly, wanting things to be fair for your partner, not keeping score, stuff like that. A lot of other things, you know. If 30% of people are ISFJs, does this mean 1 in 3 of one's relationships will be with an ISFJ? I mean, I guess on average it would mean that, but it would depend on your type, I suspect. So I'm naturally going to find an immediate camaraderie with other alpha quadrant people that seems appealing, and vice versa. So it makes sense that I had a couple SFJs in my life, but I've also been with an INFP, ISFP, I think, possibly ESFP. I've slept with an ESFP before. I wouldn't say I ever dated her really, but that other ESFP I'm thinking about. I've had other short relationships with SFPs, I guess. Camaraderie is not necessarily good for a relationship, probably isn't. You don't think camaraderie is good for a relationship? So, I mean, explain how a good relationship haven't we all slept with an ESFP? Even virgins, I think, have at least had like phone sex with an ESFP. I mean, the thing is, I would tend to describe my relationship with Rachel as filled with good camaraderie, and that's one of the primary selling points. But it's not like the sexual energy is diminished over time. That's kind of normal for me in a relationship, really, that I start having less sex the longer I've been together with the person until it gets down to, every couple of weeks, every month or whatever, Like at the end of my second marriage, we didn't have, well, actually the very end of it, we had sex a lot because I think she was trying to make some sort of point or something, but I know she even told me what it was. She was trying to ruin me for other women, like trying to, I guess, prove herself before we split or something. I don't know. ESFJ shit. So, but in my current relationship, it has not been the case that Rachel and I have decreased the frequency of sexual intercourse. I tend to forget about it sometimes, like just be too caught up in yelling at Raphael or something to remember that, oh yeah, I was thinking about having sex earlier, and then Rachel, after 2 hours of me yelling at Raphael, goes to bed, and I'm still yelling at Raphael, and then an hour later I go, oh, fuck, I was gonna hump. But the thing is, Rachel doesn't tend to forget about it, and she has a healthy appetite, let's say. So I end up having sexual intercourse every other day, probably, when she's not on her period. Sometimes every day. I mean, sometimes back-to-back days. But it's also because we both really, I believe it to be the case for her as well, that we both are very pleased to find each other so compatible sexually with each other. And also at this point, from an SI perspective, we're very comfortable with each other. So it's great, it's fantastic. It's one of the advantages of getting a younger girlfriend, I guess. 2 men or 2 women equals high camaraderie, low intimacy. Man, woman equals low camaraderie, high intimacy. I mean, but the two things are not exclusive at all. In other words, there's no mechanism of camaraderie that precludes intimacy, or mechanism of intimacy that precludes camaraderie. I would say that intimacy is sort of private camaraderie. One of the best ways to define intimate, the person with whom you are most intimate in your life is the person with who knows most of the deepest of your secrets. So it's not a great definition for me, because I don't really have any secrets. It's not like Rachel really knows anything about me that everybody doesn't know. But if you're cheating, for example, on somebody, then the reason it's betrayal is because it's a betrayal of intimacy. The person, your significant other has shared with you her most private self, and instead of reciprocating, you've chosen to share your most private self with somebody else, because your significant other is one you're keeping secrets from. The problem I have with camaraderie is the word comrade. That makes it communist, and therefore I'm opposed to it. So I'm in favor of instead capitalistery. We have great capitalistery. It's like camaraderie, but less commie. They've seen your news, and you've seen their news. Yeah, that's true. Rachel has seen my wiener. Your wiener? Yes, my wiener. It's my dangling man part. It's one of a package of dangling man parts that I possess between my legs. You might call them my dangles, my privacy, my amphibious assault force. Amphibious assault team. That's what I call my junk. It's an amphibious assault team. Schlong. Lauren Cuthbert, that's a bad word. Okay. Refer to it as a member, a manhood, a penis, a wiener, a wang, a mandangle, or a third leg, but not ever a schlong. You mean cock-a-doodle-doo? Only if you're talking about a rooster. It's the only context in which you can say cock. All right. Also, ass only to be used to refer to donkeys and mules. You could use ass to refer to mules as well. Man schlong master race. Oh, CNT? You mean country? Contaminated water? You mean that? You mean contaminated water? Don't you love that South Park song that Wendy sings at the audition for the boy band? That ends with a curse word that turns into a different word each time. You know what I'm talking about? I don't give a flying fuck is the end of it. The last word, you finally get the bad word. It's a great song. Because she is a contaminated water. Contaminated water will really make you sick. And you can suck my Dickens is an author who something like that, you know. One of those kind of songs. Womb Raider is a great name for your penis. John Thomas is a popular British name. Oh, they have the lyrics here. Cool. Thanks, Winston's mom, for sharing the lyrics with us. Mrs. Landers was a health nut. She cooked food in a wok. Mr. Harris was her boyfriend. He had a great big cock-a-doodle-doodle. The rooster just won't quit. And I don't like my breakfast because it tastes like shih tzus. They're good house pets. They're cuddly and sweet. Monkeys aren't good to have because they like to beat their meeting in an office. A meeting in the hall. The boss, he wants to see you so you can suck his balls. Zach was a writer. He lived with Alan Funt. Mrs. Roberts didn't like him, but that's because she's a contaminated water. Can really make you sick. Your bladder gets infected and blood comes out your... Dictate what I'm saying because it will bring you luck. And if you all don't like it, I don't give a flying fuck. What a great song. Box Destroyer was almost your YT screen name. You know what? Box Destroyer is I wonder if that's appealing to women. Ooh, he's gonna destroy my box. Probably. It's weird the way the women are. Tonsil tickler. Yeah. Esophageal plug. This is your esophageal plug here. Yeah, you probably want to be like tonsil bulldozer rather than tickler if you want to sound tough, you know. Tonsil bulldozer. Esophageal plug's not a bad one. You know, I've heard the expression before, penis garage for a woman's whatever, either top or bottom hole. Tonsil thrasher's not bad. Sternum tapper. This is the sternum right here, I think. If you really want to make a big claim, call yourself sternum tapper. The diaphragm. You've got to breathe from your diaphragm. That's another good Steve Martin one-liner is, there was this singing teacher. He made me so mad. He was such a pervert. He had this woman student, and he kept telling her to sing from her diaphragm. Sternum slider. The stomach pumper. So anyway, after humping for a little while, I released my man-seed torrent, and she was completely enveloped in white goo. The organ rearranger. YouTube chat, Big Brother being very harsh today. Yeah, I really think that the YouTube algorithm is challenged by me considerably in this channel, because of course there's nothing actually bad, hateful, misogynistic, inappropriate, or whatever going on here. We making a bunch of jokes about stuff. It's not mean-spirited at all, right? So it's like, how does YouTube algorithm figure out what's going on here? Here we've got this place where some people are saying what YouTube algorithms thinks is false news, like elections dealing or COVID was planned or shit like that, right? But I'm not saying that. In fact, I'm arguing against those people. And then there's a lot of stuff here that smacks of stuff that actually is bad, but is not an example of it at all. So it's like, it's almost as though this channel is made to make YouTube algorithm's job hard. Maybe it's on Urban Dictionary. But when did that become relevant? If you're gonna call it your meat stick, why not just call it your Euro source loaf. They carve Euro meat off of. It's called the Euro source loaf. I like to call my penis my loaf of bread. Because like a loaf of bread, it's sliced into slices. My worst baguette. I'd have to spell it. It wouldn't really work verbally. If a woman can freeze a man to death, he's weak. I mean, but if a man can freeze a man to death, does that make both men weak? Medusa was so beautiful, and every man that looks at her turns to stone because he's subject to her beauty. I'm pretty sure it's because she had snakes for hair and not to God. Because he's subject to her beauty and not to God. I mean, that's not the moral of that story at all. I mean, that's not what the Greeks meant when they wrote that. But you can interpret it that way if you'd like. I mean, I think the moral of that story is pretty clear. Don't date chicks with snakes for hair, right? I'm pretty sure that's the moral of the story. Don't date damaged chicks, right? Don't date damaged chicks. That's the moral of the story. I was looking at a new Jordan Peterson, and he is an idea, a theory he's working on that ties evolution of the archetypes. Well, I mean, it's funny, dumb genius. My friend Corey used to have a category of people who he called stupid smart people. That's exactly what I would call Jordan Peterson. Don't damage chicks you date, and don't date damaged chicks. That would be the parallel construction. She was cursed. She was the most beautiful, but she turned people to stone and enjoyed her beauty because they rather look at a cursed woman for pleasure than to respect the God who cursed her. And who was the God who cursed her? If the God cursed her by making her hair turn into snakes, then isn't it the case that the God cursed her by taking away this beauty so that men were no longer looking at her because of her beauty? I'm pretty sure they went to Medusa's island not in search of looking at Medusa, right? I mean, that's not why people ended up on Medusa's island. The men didn't go, hey, everybody, we got to go check out this super hot Medusa chick. We got to go onto this island and look at this super hot Medusa chick, right? That's not what was driving people to Medusa's island, correct? It was, I think, a siren, perhaps, or something. You do realize that dinosaurs are basically very damaged chicks, and people date them all the time. What are dinosaurs? Is that a metaphor for something? Abraham got his CHTST yesterday. His chest. His chastity. He got his chastity back. He got his co-host. His construction, health, and safety technician. That is wonderful, wonderful news. I am very glad to hear that. That's much better than getting his chest yesterday. He would have needed that long ago. Beautiful and the most pleasure possible, but lurking men into sharp rocks so they ships sink and eat them. But who did that? That was Siren, right? Okay, well, but what made the people get to Medusa's island in the first place? You need to know that if you wanted to make your case for the thing you're making, right? Okay, so then, as a matter of fact, it is not the case that we should derive from that story that the problem was people wanted to look at Medusa because of her beauty, right? That's not why they went to Medusa's Island. That joke needed way too much explanation to even have a chance of being funny. Chickens and dinosaurs apparently have very similar DNA, so they're basically ancestors of some shtick. Yeah, I know the whole bird dinosaur theory. I don't doubt that birds and dinosaurs are related species, quote unquote, but I do reject the hilariously wrong notion that there's some sort of evolutionary relationship between them. Look at this horrible line here. This is not well done, Eric. You did a terrible job right there of cutting your hair. Look at that. No one's going to take me seriously. Nobody at all. Skygear, you do get credit for, I guess you'd say, never say die spirit, that if you continue explaining it, it will become funny. It could just be wrong joke. You know, there's no shame in making a bad joke. We all do it. Yes, even me. I'll make a bad joke right now. Hey, have you seen the news? I haven't. How's that? Have you seen Ted Cruz's most recent haircut? Neither has he. I have not seen it. What fun antics are Rachel up to? Rachel's fun antics at the moment include sleeping, being in bed, lying next to the cat, and snoozing and snoring. A big flex would have been to try to think of a bad joke and fail to do so. Yeah, I don't think you want to mix your flex with your humor that much. Humor flex is like humorous music. It's really tricky to pull off. You know, like there are basically no good comedy songs. There are very few. I like to listen to Tom Lair's songs because they're great songs and they've got entertaining lyrics sometimes too, varying degrees. But and they're clever and fun and whatever. But what I mean by this is, in general, comedy songs don't have very good replayability because people don't want comedy in their music usually. It's like mixing, it's like anime puts a lot of TNA in some of the anime things, right? A lot of animated TNA, like ridiculously proportioned anime chicks falling out of their things and stuff, But I always find that if they do too much of that, it's distracting, and I don't like to mix my sexually stimulating input with other kind of input. Similarly with music and comedy, I think. It's not to say that there's never a good funny song, but the best funny songs are good even when you're not laughing still anymore, because you can only laugh at a thing a couple of times. I agree with you, Lex and Karate. I'm not a sex and food mixer. A hilarious song is most properly placed in some sort of production, like be it a film, a feature-length film, or even a episode of a show or something, where it can take advantage of contextual stuff to be funny, and where it only has to serve its purpose one time or maybe twice if you rewatch it. But it's not trying to succeed purely on its merits as a song. As far as like funny songs that stand the test of time, well, they stand the test of time not really because they're funny per se. So it's like National Brotherhood Week is a great song by Tom Lehrer that was intended to be funny, but it's just a good song. And then some other Tom Lehrer songs that have stood the test of time for me include New Math and the Element song, which is not his song. It's put to the tune of Modern Major General. But those are very clever verbally songs. New Math is really a great song to listen to if you haven't heard it. It talks about basses. It may be where I first learned about basses, I think, is from that song, and sort of deduced a lot of bass stuff from hearing that song, I guess. Like changing from bass 10 to bass 8 to bass 6 or bass 2, binary is bass 2, you know. So at some point I will check him out again, Owen Benjamin. It's just like when I hear about this, hear people talk about this guy and what kind of stuff he does and why he's popular and why he's successful, I can't help but feel somewhat jealous about it, I guess, or find him immediately threatening just hearing about him. So I have to go and pursue his stuff requires me to first sort of prepare myself emotionally that here's somebody who's probably going to be working in a similar vein to me, but is much more successful than I am. And it may be the case that watching him, I even think, wow, I see why he's so much more successful. He's a lot better than me, which is going to make me feel like demoralized. Or I may conclude that you should ban the shit out of him, huh? Is the goal of early relationships to change from base 1 to base 2? That's a great way to put it, I guess. Of course, you can't really have base 1, can you? Just all zeros. So, you know, I remember one time Benjamin, the ISTP YouTuber, does stuff about interviews about MBTI stuff or OP stuff, you know, objective personality or whatever. That guy once asked me, like, something along the lines of basically like why all my songs are jokes. And I was like, as far as I know, none of them are. They may be lighthearted, but they're not intended to be comedy. I may have failed such that they appear to be intended to be comedy, but I can think of a couple that are intended to kind of be funny, but they're not exactly comedy songs. Like, how does logic deal with instantaneous moments? Like, if A, then not A. It's not a contradiction in the way that A and not A is. If it deals with an instant, therefore is not A valid. Okay, well, I mean, logic deals with things in terms of conditional time, which is to say, there's an assumption that some things are predicated on other things, but not that identity changes over time. So somebody posted here the other day the 3 laws of thought, which include the law of non-contradiction, which is what requires it to be conditional time. A never turns into B. It may be the case that if A, then B, but if A, then B means if A, then A and B, right? So that's why it produces immediately contradictory premises. Because if you say if A, then not A, you're saying if A, then A and not A. And then let's say you say A, then you say A and not A. Well, because you can then separate those two with subtraction, the rule of inference subtraction, then you will have A separate from not A. At that point, you can prove anything at all valid because you're beginning with contradictory premises. And the way you do that is you start with A and you say A or V, and then you have not A, so you get V. Whatever it is you want to make V, that's valid all of a sudden. You know, anytime you have contradictory premises, it's like 2 steps to proving anything in the universe. So the law of non-contradiction requires logic to deal with things in conditional time. Fortunately, it turns out there is a reality that operates accordingly, namely language-based communications, turn-based stuff in general. So in terms of the time thing, the best that conditional logic can do, really, in terms of representing fluidities like that, is quantification theory allows you to add some. So you're no longer just stuck with all or no. So in other words, it establishes that things exist as a set and that something can be an instance of a set. And that instantiation so it's like if I instantiate one instance of something, there are at least some of me. Whereas if I establish that something doesn't exist, that means there are no instances of me. And that allows you to use some. With the addition of 2 rules to the basic rules of conditional logic, which are the 2 rules that they add are universal instantiation and existential something like that. And then the other way that you can deal with fluidity with logic, besides that, is what was I thinking about before? Well, I mean, it all boils down ultimately to set theory. Okay, so all of logic is essentially a subset of set theory. Set theory tells us that we can define things as being inside and outside of multiple sets concurrently. So when you add the capacity to quantify with quantification part of logic, then what you're really saying is I can now talk about a set of things that has a relationship to another set that's other than in or out. Okay? What's set theory a subset of? Logic? I mean, language? Talking, I guess? Communication? I mean, the thing is, all these things like math and other kind of symbolic languages, they all stem from the fact that in order to use language, we have to have a separate reality that operates according to a turn-based or conditional architecture rather than a causal, fluid, progressive, linear time kind of model, you know? So the physical world operates according to fluid, linear time and causality. If I cause something to happen, you know, I can light this cigarette. I can never return this cigarette to the way it was, unlit, brand new and unlit. And if I put it out right now, I may have saved most of the thing. It's still going to have been lit. I have caused this cigarette to be lit, which means I cannot return it to its previous state. I might do something equivalent, but I can't actually return it to its previous state. The difference in conditionality is I can say, if I light this cigarette, then I will not be able to return it to its previous state without actually doing it. I can talk about the fact that causality produces irreversible impacts in order to consider multiple options before choosing one, right? Irreversible impacts. Right, but it does prove that you play the concert. So if I play the concert, I will be applauded. Therefore, I do play the concert. Therefore, I'm applauded. So do you play the concert? Yes. If you're saying after I play the conference, I will be applauded. After I play the concert, I will be applauded. That's not a conditional. That's saying these things will happen sequentially. Conditionality is about the status of the consequent and the antecedent in relation to each other. It's not about their relationship in time. In GL, I imagined this topic of conversation last night. I'm saying within the same framed piece of work, A can't be not A. You're mistaking the symbol for the thing is what's happening here. So when we say, if I play the concert, I will be applauded, what we're saying is that for the sake of argument, if I take action X, result Y will happen. Now you can challenge my assertion here by saying a number of things. You could say that I'm wrong, that there's no guarantee that they will applaud. You could say that it's meaningless because they're going to applaud for everybody, so it doesn't matter if they applaud for you, it doesn't mean anything. You could say a lot of different responses to it. What you can't do is change the meaning of the antecedent after the fact. So you say is, if I play the concert, then people will applaud. Then after the fact, you go, well, you played the concert and people applauded. So we can keep people applauded, but we don't have to keep I played the concert, right? Remember, the applauding may not occur concurrently with the playing, but at no point when we're talking about it are we talking about them as occurring concurrently. So when I say, if I play the concert, I will be applauded, I'm not saying if I play the concert, they will applaud me concurrently. I'm saying, if I wish after this whole event is over to have the status of having been applauded, then I should play the concert. Then I should make the status play the concert happen. We're treating them as things that are static, not fluid. That's how come they're treated in conditional logic rather than reality. What about when you give a proposition that involves open-ended possibilities? Would an ISTP struggle with considering every possibility because any polar? How does this work? I'm not sure what you mean with it by a proposition that involves open-ended probabilities. A proposition is typically a statement that has a clear position, right? So I'm not sure what such a thing would be. It's because there's some kind of mental inertia. After the first satisfactory possibility, the mind gets stuck. I think it's very interesting to hear that Mendelssohn wanted his Third Symphony to be played without applause. Because, does he mean he wished that after it concluded that nobody clapped? Or that he didn't want any applause until the whole thing was over? I mean, to be played without applause, keeping in mind that the players aren't using applause. Hi, Delilah, is that really you? Yeah, hey, Father is probably you. I'm going to assume that actually is you until you say something super trolly. Yeah, conditionality is not a prediction, right? It's a claim. A conditional statement is a claim you're making. You're between classes. Well, don't get crushed between them. Which two classes are you between? Are you between class 1 and class 2? No, it's her. She's talking like her. If A, then not A would best be called this. If you play the concert, then it is not the case that you play the concert. I'm in between experimental psych activity and experimental psych. Experimental psych activity sounds fun. Let's try to convince that person there's a bug on him. Ooh, Joe, hey, don't look down to the bug on your back. No, higher. Oh, you just missed it. No, it's gross. It's huge. Can you get it for me? No, I'm not gonna touch it. You're almost there. Just keep. That sounds like a good psychology experiment. See what happens when you tell somebody there's a big gross bug on their back. You should suggest that in your activity next time for the activity. Yeah, just lying. Let's see what happens when we lie to this person. Well, the point is, you were dealing with it initially with both things in the future tense, right? And eventually, and after the event is over, both things will be in the past tense. So you're equivocating, right? It's not the case that you ever claiming that if you play the concert, then there will be applause means that they will occur concurrently, or that you'll still be playing the concert and having the applause forever, right? We accept that they're both of finite duration. But that doesn't mean that, I guess it would best be phrased like this. If I attain the status Eric played at the concert, then I will also attain the status Eric received applause. If you wanted to be really precise about the whole thing. Oh, I feel like I have to poo again. Can you give me an example while I poo? Mackenzie Hoffman, I really feel like I need an example. That's SI for you. I really feel like I need an example. Now here's something to entertain you while I'm pooing. Oh, my butt.
Once upon a time, a long time ago, I was a little kid walking out in the snow, except there wasn't no snow here in Southern California, too warm for snow, but I don't want to bore you with the weather. Whether or not you find it clever or boring or love it a lot, think it a pleasure or poor or lacking a plot, it's cold, it's a chore. No, it's more, it heats super hot regardless. Let's not get too up and caught and laying out just exactly what is not, because laying's not falling out of the cot. Back to the story, back to the top. Once upon a time, a long time ago, I was walking all around when time was slow, except I wasn't really walking because I rode my bike, and if I wasn't doing that, then in the car I'd ride, or I'd stay inside, allow myself to try magic scissors, cause my god was a wizard. Fighters were lame, wizardly spells put fighters to shame. Let's not mistakes make the same again, Jane. I swerved out of my lane again, Jane. Like the time I fell off the cop. Back to the top. Once upon a time, a long time ago, a middle school loomed there before my toe, and nobody knew then what now they know. Isolated in the time below, blocked all the flow of intuition. Correct, Joe. Shut down to the structured bill. Oil that mercy, decorate the bell. Regardless, I just thought that I'd go ahead and return to the plot. The foregoing I've decided is not as relevant as it seems. Even so, I want to do his team. Say the time frame ought contextualize things a lot, like a context spot. But once upon a time, a long time ago, I was a little kid walking out in the snow, except there wasn't no snow here in Southern California, too warm for snow, but I don't want to bore you with the weather. Whether or not you find it clever or boring or love it a lot, think it a pleasure or poor or lacking a plot, it's cold, it's a chore. No, it's more, it hits super hot regardless. Let's not get too up and caught and laying out just exactly what is not, because laying's not falling out of the cot. Back to the story, back to the top. You come outside, your arms are folded. I'm getting scolded for playing again. I want to achieve as much as I can in terms of a man you want me to be. I got to do what I gotta do. I'll include you in everything that I can. 'Cause I'm your man, and you're my girl. I mean my woman in the world. You are the one I will be with till my dying day. I want your belief. You want my attention. I've got invention going again. I want to be as much as I can in terms of the man you want me to be. Oh, Kimberly, please don't be mad at me. Though I made this song, 'cause I'm your man, and you're my girl. I mean my woman in the world. You are the one I will be with till my dying day. 'Cause I'm your man, you're my girl, I'll be my woman in the world. You are the one I will be with till my dying day. Wake up, your daughter's gone. You and mom had her in the perfect con. For that fateful dawn when you woke up to find that your daughter's gone. Wake up, your daughter's gone. You and mom had her in the perfect con. You had your pawn before that fateful dawn when you woke up to find your daughter's gone. You burned her being with aplomb, helped her to see how she was always wrong. Worked so hard on fixing her, stop making her truth tough. You call that love? Well, that's what I call bro. You'll never deem her ever quite good enough. I know you're not surprised by this stuff, cause you'll never deem her ever quite good enough. Chump, haters, fake ass alligators, act like a dinosaur, scare us, roar, roar, roar. Hire a detective, find out more. Grade your daughter's day so before you can leverage her forevermore. Threats kept story so well capped, oh snap. Thought you had produced that crap, had your kids' free will, now well tapped, forced into sluices, squeezed out the oily juices. But the mammal you had beaten dad turned up still well uneaten kid, and now wore a suit of bitter skin, knew the way in winter when the snow fell down like dew made into ice. Yet she's still alive and having learned that the ruthless thrive. Now all above the mammal must win, bust vengeance out upon the wind. Offering so grand an aspiration, conscientious castrations, an outcome focused way for us to force the womb, force the issue, force us to loom. Bouncing along on a quest to belong, count the options, count the strong ones, the toys of the wrong ones. And Tori's father hates the bomb ones. He really needs to hit the bong some. Dumber than the young, he'd see undone, but undone, young and fun, yes fun. Now Tori's dad's oh so fun. He's way too dumb to run afoul of my big guns. Rick, call the tech. I got my O's, I got my Benz, I got my gats, and then again, I got my drugs and my gang and my strippers all the same. I've got everything that I need. I'm rolling down the highway, moving at top speed, looking out for a reason to see a G. I got my hose, I got my gat, a super awesome conference. I got my clubs, I got my strippers, I got all kinds of fun stuff. Rolling in the Benz, down the highway, super fast, going to another super awesome conference for Florida's natural grapefruit juice. Florida's natural grapefruit juice. Florida's natural grapefruit juice. Florida's natural grapefruit juice. Get your hose, got your gats, got your guns, got your bands. Don't forget your grapefruit juice, my friends.
Yeah, well, I was thinking. Oops, let me turn this off. I was thinking as I pooped that it's important to note that logic excludes a lot of the meaning of language. So, if I say, although Joe doesn't like hamburgers, he ate the one that his friend's parents bought for him. That's represented as P and Q, or not P and Q. And P is Joe likes hamburgers. So the first part, Joe doesn't like hamburgers, is not P. The second part, which is he ate the hamburger that his parents' friends bought for him, is just Q. Because in that sense, it's just one statement. You might think, well, there's two statements there, Eric. Namely, he ate that hamburger and his parents' friends bought him that hamburger. But no, it's not two statements. because that his parents' friends bought for him is an adjective clause that is a dependent clause modifying the independent clause of the statement, which is he ate the one. And so as a consequence, that whole thing is just one statement. If you wanted to make it into two statements, you need to use quantification theory. You'd say there exists at least one instance of a hamburger that has been purchased by somebody's friends. So then at that point, you'd have to establish that there's a set of things called hamburgers, of which there exists at least one instance that is modified by this quality called being purchased by the guy's friend's parents. But it wouldn't do you any good to have that because there's no argument being made with the sum quality, you know. So the point being that there's lots of stuff, lots of meanings in language that that logic considers irrelevant. If I say, although he went to the store, he didn't get any bread, logically, it's just he went to the store and he didn't get any bread. So the although is just an and. If I say, I want to, but you'll be mad, it's just and. I want to, and you'll be mad. If I say, if you can't beat them, join them, it's if P then Q, even though there's no then, right? So English doesn't always convey with the language everything that it means. And what logic tries to do is get down to what a person actually means that we can take away as statements that we can evaluate. So if they're saying like, although, look, I really didn't want to go to this thing. Yes, I went, but I really didn't want to go to this thing. And Jody made me. And it's three statements. It's, I went to this thing. I didn't want to go to this thing. And Jody made me go to this thing. Now, if in some sense I'm somebody who's getting you in trouble for going to this thing, then the first one is an admission that you did go to the thing. That's all it is. The second one is irrelevant. Whether you wanted to go to the thing or not is irrelevant. And the third thing, it may be relevant. If, in fact, somebody else forced you to go to the thing and you couldn't avoid going to the thing because you were under coercion in some fashion, then that would excuse, in some regard, your obligation to choose to not go to the thing. Okay, so Mackenzie Hoffman, in response to what you're saying, I don't think that would be the case. So I think an ICP would have no problem with that. And the reason is because all the possibilities are deductively determinate. If I say, who is my mom's sibling's kid, it could be my well, it's my first cousin. But if I say, who is my son's aunt's kid, it could be my nephew or my niece. I think ISTPs are just likely to catch on to that reality that there's more than one possibility than anybody else, because that's deductively certain that there's more than one possibility, right? Like you can basically deduce it, because the word children is a set comprising boys and girls. So that's pretty straightforward. It doesn't require any ideation to come up with that. Things that would maybe require more ideation would be things like, I'm not sure how an ISTP would do on a straight up proof. So if I say, if I set up a set of logical arguments and say, make a proof of this, for example, if unicorns walk the earth, then it is not the case that Chinese people eat rice. And unless unicorns walk the earth, none of us will have a Merry Christmas. Therefore, none of us will have a Merry Christmas. Prove that that's valid. Well, when you ask somebody to prove that that argument is valid, the correct way to go about doing that is to say, well, start with the first, you break it into each argument into its own line. So you'd go, the first conditional is if unicorns walk the earth, then what did I say? Then no Chinese people eat rice. And unless unicorns walk the earth, none of us will have a Merry Christmas. So, okay. And the first conditional is if unicorns walk the earth, then no Chinese people like rice, which is to say, it is not the case that any Chinese people like rice. But so you put not Q there, so P and not Q, but you have Q. You have to, so you then establish Q, somewhere. Namely, Chinese people eat rice. That would have to be in the argument as well for it to be valid. If you don't have that in the argument as well, it wouldn't be valid. But let's say you do. You have the Q. You use double negation to make it not Q. And then the negation of the consequent of a conditional creates the negation of the antecedent of the conditional. So then you have not P. And once you have not P, you stick it into the conditional if not P. Well, so unless unicorns walk the earth, then none of us will have a Merry Christmas. Means if unicorns don't walk the earth, then we all will not have a Merry Christmas. So we have our not P, and that gets us our not S, which is have a Merry Christmas. And that would be how you'd prove it. Now, you kind of have to know the rules and think about it. I don't know if that requires creativity or not. I'm so used to coming up with the problems rather than being presented with other people's problems at this point that it's hard for me to think about solving a proof without coming up with it myself first. But we do have plenty of evidence that if unicorns do walk the earth, Chinese people either eat them or grind them up into medicine. One of the two, or both. Of course, it's a logical or, which means or both. In other words, if I say, either your mom or I'll see you at the park today, logically, I'm saying either mom or dad or mom and dad. That's not racist. That's just hilarious. It is the case that Chinese people love to grind up endangered animals and call them medicine. It's like one of their favorite things to do. The more endangered, the more powerful the medicinal qualities. Oh my God. Look. Like the Chinese explorers go explore some unexplored jungle in South America and they go, oh my God. We found it. The last remaining dodo bird. Hurry up. Kill it, dry it, and grind it into medicine. There is nothing racist about making fun of the Chinese propensity for grinding up animals and making them into medicine. It's hilarious. Can you imagine going to the doctor and saying, well, I mean, there is one thing that could cure you, but It's almost impossible to get these days. What is it, doctor? Ground up rhinoceros horn? Why is that gonna cure me? It's a rhinoceros. It's pretty badass. Inside of the horn is where most of the badassery coalesces. So if you grind that up and you eat it, it kicks the ass of whatever it is that's ailing you. Trust me, I'm a Chinese doctor. Oh, okay, well, I can't afford ground up rhinoceros horn. Do you have any other medications you'd advise for me, Chinese doctor? Have you tried eating hot and spicy soup? That doesn't sound really like a medicine. Did the FDA put that through trials? Is it over the counter? Hot and spicy soup? That's not medicine. Well, you're not thinking like a Chinese doctor. Obviously, it does mean that. Let's say you've got a neck problem. What ground up animal do you need to eat? A giraffe. Obviously. Eating ground up giraffes is how you cure any problems with the neck or throat. Eating ground up porpoises is how you cure any problems with the penis. Because the porpoise is known as the most penis-like of all marine mammals. It's smooth and shiny. Now, I want to know if Legends Fall is correct. He should be. I hope he is. Is, in fact, the plural of rhinoceros, rhinoceri. Hippos help with buttocks problems. Correct. Exactly, Rachel. Let's say you've got a problem in the butt, cheek region, the butthole region, or even if you're constipated. What you need are ground up hippo ears. Nothing solves butt-related illnesses like ground up hippo ears. Trust me, I'm a Chinese doctor. Ooh, have I offered you a cup of this very disgusting tasting tea? It's a mix of horrible tasting herbs. You can tell it's healthy because it's so terrible. But why is it healthy? Well, because this mix of herbs is special. Why is it special? Because it's not made for taste. That's why it's made for health. You can tell it's healthy because it tastes bad. If it weren't healthy, why would we make something that tastes bad? Right? There must be a reason it tastes bad. Obviously, we're not serving it to you because you're going to enjoy the taste of it. So it must be good for you. Yes, ground up hippo ears will cure any problem with the buttocks. Ground up Venus flytraps will cure any problem of the vagina. Ground up lions cure feline leukemia. The more African the wildlife, the more medicinal effects, I think, in general. So you really want your elephant tusks, your rhino horns, your giraffe hoofs, your zebra tail tips. Of course, the thing is about Chinese medicine also, when it's really executed properly, it involves killing a very large animal, grinding up a very small portion of that animal, and throwing the rest of it away. Well, we have to kill all of these because we need their nose tips, you see. We grind up their nose tips, and that cures you if you got the sniffles. That's why we've exterminated this whole population of elephants. Get your sweet out my savory. says Life Synchronic. Get your sweet out. My say Rush Limbaugh died of bombast excess disorder. I went to a holistic acupuncture doctor who mixed up Chinese herbs and gave them to me. At first, it was like drinking twigs, but then I began to crave it. It felt great, really. You felt great, really, huh? Well, you know what other thing Chinese people like to do? They like to cup. You know what cupping is? You get this glass cup that's like made for cupping, and you put a candle underneath it for a little bit, and then you put it on someplace on your body. And I guess that creates a vacuum, right? And I remember one time I had a student come to class, and like on his arms and legs were these like, he's wearing shorts and a t-shirt or something, these weird red circles. It's like, what the hell happened to you? And he's like, oh, it'll go away in a little bit. I just got done with cupping. I said, why do you do that? And he's like, it's good for you. Okay. Is it really good for you? I mean, what makes you think it's good for you? It just reeks of semen retention to me. It's like one of those stupid ideas that somebody goes like, if you stress this part of your body in this weird way, then that's good. Yeah, it's very leechy, huh? You know, it's like back in the day, they used leeches to clear out the bad blood or something. It doesn't actually make blood come out of you cupping. It just leaves these red circles. I'm not sure what the point of it is. Acupuncture, I'm not sure what the point of it is. It's like you're poking a lot of little holes in very specific spots. Does it really work? Is it just placebo effect? What? You know? Gwyneth Paltrow was into cupping. Gwyneth Paltrow, you are a gold mine that keeps on paying off. You really are. You know what would be hilarious? If Gwyneth Paltrow announced that she had begun semen retention because she doesn't understand biology very well. And she read about how important it was to retain her semen. So she decided to start doing semen retention. Because, you know, apparently I'm losing like a lot of my sexual energy every time I have an orgasm. So I decided to stop having orgasms because, you know, it's like apparently like you can retain so much of your spiritual and sexual energies by retaining your semen. I decided to begin doing it. I'm Gwyneth Paltrow. Buy my candle. Here's a cup. The sad thing is that there are lots of realities in the imagination that would be cool if they were reality, but instead we got this one. I mean, I love this reality. I get mad at myself for taking less advantage of it than I could a lot. You know, it's like, here I have this amazing thing called life, you know, this world full of people and an opportunity to engage with variety of people and things and places and stuff. And I tend to get fixated on engaging in meow for a long stretch of time. Then meow, you know, and totally different than meow. Like I've been on this anime kick for quite a while now. I've watched so much anime I can barely remember a world that wasn't comprised primarily of demons and spells and explosions and you know, Atashimash and freaking the word hi meaning 20 different things depending on the context. And the hi, it's like, okay, or hi, I'm getting right on it, boss. Something like that, you know. I'm currently watching a couple of new things that I got somewhat into, and started another new thing, got somewhat into it. The one I'm still on the end of episode 1 at is called Welcome to Demon School, Iruma-kun. It's pretty damn good. It's pretty funny. And it's fast moving. The thing that I don't like is when an anime is too slow moving or too childish, like too stupid. I mean, something can be fast moving and still too stupid to watch. The other new one I started watching, which is a very unknown one, like the one I'm just talking about, it has 4,000 some votes on it, and it's star ratings. But the other one I was watching last night is pretty well. It started off really good. And then I got at the end of the 7th episode, I got a little bit. Started feeling a little slow to me, but it's called Shingu: Secret of the Stellar Wars, and this show here, it only has in its votes 19 votes. Okay, so it's like the last one I was telling you about had 4,000 and some votes for its star rating. This one has 19 votes for star rating, and it's way better than its lack of being watched would suggest. It's sweet and interesting and different than a lot of anime. Shingu: Secret of the Stellar Wars. It's about a regular, like the main character is just sort of, he's the class rep for his class, but he's kind of nerdy, and it's a really interesting one because it envisions a 2070 Japan, and 2070 Japan in this anime writer's vision is very enlightened, and they demonstrate the enlightenedness by for example, in the school, they no longer wear uniforms and they're much more relaxed. Hi.
We're good at 11.
All right, cool.
Are you working?
I'm live streaming.
Oh, yeah, just
So my dad was talking to me about dealing with like issues regarding that involve power of attorney over my mom, and difficulties in getting the bank to approve things that are in my mom's name because they wanted to talk to my mom, but of course my mom can't talk to anybody. I mean, she doesn't understand anything and can't communicate, so they're not going to get their wish there, I guess. All right. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, I was talking about anime. Yeah, I think I'll call it a day. Here on the live stream. And thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting with me. Yeah, we're going to Costco today but that's after I take the car down to get the car's oil changed. Okay, goodbye, everybody.